The gunshot never came. Instead, Maya heard something that made her blood run cold. The sound of expensive Italian leather hitting marble floor. She opened her eyes, expecting to see her boss, Kang Jiwon, standing over her with that dead, emotionless stare he always wore. The stare that had watched men beg for their lives before he ended them with a single bullet. But Kang Jiwon wasn't standing. He was on his knees. And for the first time in the 12 years that Seoul's underworld had feared him, tears were streaming down the devil's face. His weapon lay forgotten on the floor beside him. His hands, still stained with fresh blood from whatever nightmare he'd just walked away from, were trembling as he stared at the old woman Maya had been trying to protect. The grandmother she'd smuggled into this mansion of death because she had nowhere else to go. "Grandma Ruth," Jiwon whispered, his voice cracking like broken glass. "You're alive." Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. She didn't understand. Couldn't understand. Her boss didn't cry. He didn't kneel. He didn't even blink when he ordered executions. And he definitely didn't call random old black women grandma. But there he was, Seoul's most feared man, crawling forward on his hands and knees across the polished marble floor. His expensive black suit dragged through the puddles of rainwater they'd tracked in. He reached Maya's grandmother and pressed his forehead to her weathered hands like she was royalty. Like she was God herself. And he sobbed. Not quiet tears. Not dignified grief. But the kind of broken, desperate crying that comes from somewhere deep inside where all the hurt lives. The kind of crying that sounds like a little boy who lost everything. The 6 bodyguards standing behind him looked like they'd seen a ghost. Their faces had gone white. Their hands hovered near their weapons, but nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Because the impossible was happening right in front of them. Maya's grandmother, Ruth Johnson, looked down at the crying man with her cloudy brown eyes. She was 79 years old, and dementia had stolen most of her memories. But something flickered across her face now. Something like recognition. She lifted one wrinkled hand and gently, so gently, touched Jiwon's hair. "Jiwon, ah," she said softly, using the affectionate Korean way of saying his name. "You still haven't learned to come in from the rain, have you, baby?" Kang Jiwon's entire body shook with another sob. What secret connects a ruthless Korean mafia boss to a grandmother suffering from dementia? What happened between them that could make the devil himself weep? Drop a comment below with your predictions, and tell us where you're watching from. 24 hours earlier, Maya's phone had buzzed at 2 in the morning. She'd been lying in her tiny room in the servants' quarters of Jiwon's mansion, staring at the ceiling and trying not to think about what she'd seen that evening. Her boss had come home with blood on his shoes. Real blood. The kind that doesn't wash out easily. The phone's harsh vibration against her nightstand made her jump. "Miss Johnson." The voice on the other end belonged to Nurse Park from Sunshine Valley Care Home. She sounded panicked. "You need to come right now. There's been a flood in the building. Water damage to the entire West Wing. We're evacuating all our residents, but..." She paused, and Maya heard shouting in the background. "We don't have space for everyone at the temporary facility. Family members need to take their loved ones tonight." Maya's stomach dropped to her feet. I don't have anywhere to take her," she whispered into the phone, her throat tight. "I'm sorry, Miss Johnson, but you have 2 hours. After that, we'll have to contact social services, and you know what that means." Maya knew exactly what it meant. Her grandmother would end up in whatever overflow facility had space. The kind of place where old people went to be forgotten. Where they died alone, staring at walls, calling for family that never came. She couldn't let that happen. Not to Grandma Ruth. The woman who'd raised her after Maya's parents died. The woman who'd worked 3 jobs to keep food on the table. The woman who'd taught Maya that kindness wasn't weakness. It was the strongest thing a person could choose. Maya threw on her clothes and ran. The rain had started by the time she reached the care home. It fell in thick, heavy sheets that turned Seoul's streets into rivers. Inside, the building was chaos. Old people in wheelchairs lined the hallways. Some were crying. Some were confused. Some just sat silently, staring at nothing, their minds too far gone to understand what was happening. Maya found her grandmother sitting by the emergency exit, clutching her worn brown purse in her lap. She was humming something, an old gospel song from back in Georgia, from before Ruth had moved to Korea 30 years ago to do missionary work. Before she'd met Maya's grandfather. Before dementia had started stealing her away, piece by piece. "Nana," Maya whispered, kneeling down in front of her. "We have to go." Ruth looked at her with those cloudy eyes. Sometimes she knew who Maya was. Sometimes she thought Maya was her sister, long dead. Sometimes she didn't recognize anyone at all. Go where, baby? Ruth asked, her voice small and confused. Somewhere safe, Maya lied. Because there was only one place Maya could take her. The one place that terrified her more than anything else in the world. Kang Jiwon's mansion. The rules of the mansion were simple. Maya had learned them on her first day, 12 months ago, when she'd been desperate enough to take a job as a maid in a house that everyone whispered about. Rule number 1. Never look Mr. Kang directly in the eyes. Rule number 2. Never ask questions about the men who came and went at odd hours. Never mention the bloodstains. Never acknowledge the sounds of violence that sometimes echoed from the basement. Rule number 3. No visitors. Ever. Not family. Not friends. Not anyone. 6 months ago, a food delivery driver had gotten lost and accidentally rang the front doorbell instead of the service entrance. Maya had watched from the kitchen window as 2 of Jiwon's men dragged the driver behind the garage. She'd heard the screams. The next day, there was a story in the news about a hit-and-run victim found in an alley 3 blocks away. The driver never delivered food again. And now Maya was about to break the most important rule of all. She parked her beat-up Honda in the alley behind the mansion at 3 a.m. The rain was coming down so hard she could barely see. Her hands were shaking so badly she could hardly turn off the engine. Just for tonight, she whispered to herself. Just until morning. I'll find somewhere else. I'll call every nursing home in Seoul. I'll figure something out. She helped her grandmother out of the car. Ruth was wearing her favorite dress, pale yellow with tiny blue flowers. The same dress she'd worn to church every Sunday for 20 years. It was soaked through within seconds. Where are we, sweetheart? Ruth asked, looking around at the rain and darkness. A friend's house, Maya said. Another lie. She had no friends here. Just a boss who paid her well to be invisible and keep her mouth shut about the terrible things that happened in this beautiful house. The service entrance was unlocked. It always was, because the house had security that didn't need locks. Cameras. Motion sensors. Armed men who patrolled the grounds. But Maya knew the blind spots. She'd learned them over 12 months of trying to stay out of everyone's way. They slipped inside through the kitchen. It was dark and empty. The other staff wouldn't arrive until 6. She had 3 hours. Her room in the servants' quarters was too small for 2 people, but she didn't have a choice. She helped Ruth inside, got her out of the wet dress, wrapped her in blankets. You rest here, Nana. I have to go clean Mr. Kang's study before he wakes up. Ruth caught her hand. Her grip was still surprisingly strong. You're such a good girl, she said. Working so hard. Your mama would be proud. Maya's throat tightened. She kissed her grandmother's forehead and left before the tears could fall. She had 3 guest rooms to clean before sunrise. Mr. Kang's orders. He was particular about everything. The sheets had to be changed even if no one had slept in them. The floors had to shine. Every surface had to be spotless. Maya worked faster than she ever had before. Her mind raced with impossible plans. Maybe she could call that place on the south side. Maybe they had space. Maybe she could afford it if she worked double shifts. Maybe. A sound stopped her cold. Footsteps in the hallway. Slow and unsteady. No. No. Maya dropped her cleaning supplies and ran. She rounded the corner, just in time to see her grandmother wandering down the main hallway. The hallway where Mr. Kang's office was. Where he kept his guns and his files and all the secrets that people died for knowing. Ruth was humming that same gospel song, her fingers trailing along the expensive wallpaper, completely unaware of where she was. Completely unaware of the danger. Nana! Maya whispered harshly, running forward. What are you doing? You have to go back to. The front doors exploded open. The sound was like a bomb going off. The heavy oak doors slammed against the walls so hard that the crystal chandelier above them swayed and chimed. Kang Jiwon stormed inside like a hurricane made of rage and violence. He looked like he'd walked out of hell. His black suit was torn at the shoulder. His white shirt underneath was splattered with blood. So much blood that it looked like he'd taken a bath in it. His knuckles were raw and bleeding. His jaw was clenched so tight that Maya could see the muscles jumping beneath his skin. Behind him, 6 bodyguards filed in. Their faces were hard. Their hands were near their weapons. Whatever had happened tonight had been bad. The kind of bad that left bodies behind. Get the doctor, Jiwon barked at one of his men. His voice was rough, like he'd been screaming. And burn these clothes. I don't want any evidence left. He stopped walking. The main hall was supposed to be empty at this hour. It was always empty when he came home like this. That was the rule. No witnesses. No one to see the monster when he took off his human mask. But someone was standing in the middle of his pristine marble floor. An old black woman in a yellow dress with blue flowers, humming softly to herself. Her silver hair was loose around her shoulders. She looked so small, so fragile, so completely out of place in this house of death. Jiwon's hand went to his waistband, to the gun tucked there. The bodyguards moved instantly. Weapons appeared from beneath jackets. Red laser sights painted dots across the old woman's chest. 6 dots. 6 weapons. 6 men ready to eliminate a threat. The metallic click of safeties being released echoed through the marble hall. Ruth looked up. She blinked slowly, like she'd just noticed the armed men surrounding her. And she smiled. A warm, gentle smile. The kind of smile that had comforted crying children and welcomed strangers and made the world feel a little bit safer. "Oh, hello," she said pleasantly. "I was just looking for the bathroom. This is such a big house." "Get down on the ground," one of the bodyguards shouted. "Now, Nana." Maya's scream tore through the tension like a knife through silk. She came running from the hallway, her cleaning apron flying behind her, tears already streaming down her face. She didn't think. Didn't calculate the danger. Didn't care about the guns or the men or the fact that she was about to die. She threw herself between the weapons and her grandmother. Her arms spread wide, her body shaking. A human shield made of desperation and love. "Please," Maya sobbed, looking directly at Kang Jiwon for the first time in 12 months. Breaking rule number 1. Please don't hurt her. She has dementia. She doesn't know where she is. She doesn't understand. Jiwon stood frozen. His hand was still on his weapon. His eyes were locked on the old woman's face. "The nursing home flooded," Maya continued, the words tumbling out in a frantic rush. "I had nowhere else to take her. I was going to move her in the morning. I swear I was. Please, Mr. Kang. I'll leave tonight. Right now. I'll disappear. You'll never see me again. Just please," her voice broke. "Please don't hurt my grandmother." The hall went deathly silent. Ruth was patting Maya's head gently, confused by all the fuss. "It's okay, baby. No need to cry. These nice men are just surprised to see us." The bodyguards waited, their fingers on triggers, their eyes on their boss. One word from Kang Jiwon, and this would be over. Clean. Simple. No witnesses. Maya squeezed her eyes shut. She pulled her grandmother closer, wrapping both arms around her, trying to cover as much of Ruth's body as possible with her own. She waited for the gunshot. But instead, she heard something that didn't make sense. The soft thud of expensive fabric hitting marble. Maya's eyes flew open. Kang Jiwon had dropped to his knees. His weapon lay on the floor beside him, forgotten. His hands were shaking as he stared at Ruth's face. And his eyes, his cold, dead eyes that had never shown emotion, never showed mercy, were filled with tears. "Grandma Ruth," he whispered. "You're alive." The bodyguards froze. Weapons still raised. Fingers still on triggers. But nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Because they had never seen their boss cry. They'd seen him torture men for information. They'd seen him execute traitors without blinking. They'd seen him burn entire buildings to the ground. But they had never seen him cry. Jiwon raised one hand, a small gesture, barely a movement, but absolute in its authority. The red laser dots vanished. Weapons lowered. The men stepped back, confusion rippling through their ranks like a shockwave. Maya remained frozen, her arms still around her grandmother, her mind unable to process what was happening. This couldn't be real. The devil of Seoul didn't cry. He didn't kneel. He didn't. "Jiwon." Ruth's voice cut through the silence. Soft. Wondering. Jiwon's breath caught. He stared at her with an intensity that bordered on desperation, like he was trying to memorize every wrinkle, every silver hair, every detail of her face. Ruth squinted, leaning forward slightly. Her cloudy eyes studied him. And then something shifted in her expression. A flicker of recognition breaking through the fog of dementia. She lifted her hand and gently, so gently, touched his face. "Jiwon, she said. "Look at you. All grown up. And still getting into fights, I see." She gestured at the blood on his clothes with a disappointed shake of her head. Kang Jiwon's cold expression. The mask he'd worn for 20 years, the face that had ordered hundreds of deaths without flinching, completely shattered. His jaw trembled. His shoulders shook. He bent forward into a full 90-degree bow. The kind reserved for parents. For teachers. For people who owned your very soul. But even that wasn't enough. He crawled forward on his hands and knees across the marble floor. His expensive suit dragged through the rainwater. He reached Ruth's feet and buried his face in her hands. And he sobbed. Deep, broken sobs that seemed to come from somewhere ancient. From a place where a little boy had buried all his pain and fear and loneliness, so deep that he'd forgotten it was there. "Grandma," he choked out between gasps. "I looked for you. For 20 years, I looked for you. They told me you were dead. They told me everyone was gone." Ruth's fingers moved instinctively to stroke his hair. The same way she must have done a lifetime ago. "Shuh," she murmured. "I'm here now, baby. I'm right here." Maya's hands covered her mouth. Tears streamed down her face. The bodyguards stood like statues, their faces carefully blank, trying desperately to unsee what they were witnessing. Because the man crying at an old woman's feet wasn't the devil of Seoul. He was just a boy who'd lost everything. And somehow, impossibly, he'd just found a piece of it again. Subscribe to this channel to support our growth. Nobody moved. The only sound in the massive entrance hall was Kang Jiwon's broken breathing and the quiet humming of Ruth's gospel song as she stroked his hair. The 6 bodyguards stood frozen like statues, their weapons lowered but their minds racing. They'd followed this man into gunfights. They'd watched him negotiate with Yakuza bosses without blinking. They'd seen him break bones with his bare hands. But they'd never seen him vulnerable. And vulnerability, in their world, was more dangerous than any bullet. Maya slowly lowered her arms from around her grandmother, her legs shaking so badly she could barely stand. Her mind was spinning, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. How did her boss know her grandmother? Why was he calling her grandma? And why did he look like his entire world had just been put back together? "Jiwon, Ruth said gently, the way you'd speak to a child who'd skinned his knee. "You're getting my dress all wet, baby." He pulled back slightly, wiping his face with the back of his hand. His eyes were red and swollen. Blood from his torn knuckles had smeared across his cheek. He looked nothing like the cold, calculated killer Maya had worked for over the past year. He looked human. "I'm sorry, Grandma Ruth," he whispered, his voice still thick with tears. "I'm sorry. I can't believe you're real. I thought," his voice cracked again. "I thought I'd never see you again." Ruth cupped his face in both her weathered hands, studying him with those cloudy eyes that sometimes saw the past more clearly than the present. "Well, I'm right here," she said simply. "And you need to get out of those bloody clothes before you catch pneumonia." "Lord have mercy, boy, what have you been doing?" One of the bodyguards, a tall man named Choi who'd been with Jiwon for 7 years, made a small movement. Just a slight shift of his weight. But Jiwon caught it immediately. His head snapped up. His eyes, still wet with tears, had gone cold again. "Sharp. Dangerous. Anyone who speaks about what happened here tonight," Jiwon said quietly, his voice deadly calm, "will be found in pieces in the Han River. Is that understood?" "Yes, boss," they all said in unison. "You're dismissed. All of you. Tell the morning shift not to come in. I want this house empty except for essential personnel." The men bowed and left quickly, grateful to escape. Only Choi hesitated at the door, his hand on his phone. Jiwon knew what he was thinking. This was a security risk. A massive one. Unknown civilian in the boss's home. Emotional breakdown that could be used as leverage. "Choi," Jiwon called out. The man turned, his face carefully neutral. "If I find out you've reported this to anyone, and I mean anyone, your family will attend your funeral wondering what happened to their son." Choi's face went pale. He bowed deeply and left. The door clicked shut. And then there were 3. Jiwon slowly got to his feet, wincing slightly. Now that the adrenaline was wearing off, Maya could see he was hurt. The way he held his left side suggested broken ribs. The blood on his shirt wasn't all from other people. "Maya," he said, and it was the first time he'd ever said her name. In 12 months, he'd never once acknowledged her as anything more than the maid or you. She jumped. "Yes, Mr. Kang? Why didn't you tell me your grandmother was Ruth Johnson?" I didn't know you knew her, sir." He laughed, but it was a broken sound. "Know her? She saved my life." Ruth was looking around the entrance hall now, her attention already drifting the way it did when the dementia pulled her away. She touched the marble column beside her, running her fingers over the smooth stone. "This is a very fancy house," she said to no one in particular. "Must cost a fortune to heat in the winter." Jiwon watched her with an expression Maya had never seen on his face before. It was soft, gentle, almost reverent. "She doesn't remember," he said quietly. "Does she?" Not clearly. Maya shook her head, tears still streaming down her cheeks. Some days are better than others. Sometimes she knows who I am. Sometimes she thinks I'm her sister, Sarah, who died 15 years ago. Sometimes she doesn't recognize anyone at all. But she remembered me, Jiwon said, almost to himself. Even for a moment, she knew my name. He turned to Maya, and for the first time, she saw something in his eyes that looked like gratitude. How long has she been sick? 3 years. It started slow, forgetting where she put her keys, repeating the same stories. But this past year, it's gotten so much worse. She needs full-time care now, and Maya's voice broke. I can barely afford the nursing home. I've been working extra shifts, but it's not enough. And now with the flood. She stays here, Jiwon said. Maya blinked. What? She stays here. Both of you. For as long as you need. For as long as she lives. Mr. Kang, I can't. That wasn't a request. His voice had that edge of command again, but it wasn't cruel. It was protective. Ruth Johnson doesn't spend another night in some underfunded nursing home. She doesn't sleep in a room that smells like disinfectant and death. She stays here, where I can make sure she's safe. Where she's comfortable. But sir, your rules. My rules don't apply to family. The word hung in the air like a bell that had just been rung. Family. Ruth had wandered over to examine a painting on the wall. It was an expensive piece, some modern art thing that had cost more than Maya made in 5 years. Ruth tilted her head, studying it. I don't understand this new art, she muttered. Looks like someone spilled paint and called it genius. Despite everything, Maya almost laughed. Jiwon smiled, actually smiled, and walked over to Ruth. He moved carefully, like he was approaching something precious and fragile. Grandma Ruth, he said softly. Are you tired? Would you like to rest? She turned to look at him, and her eyes cleared for just a moment. Really cleared. Like the fog had lifted and she could see everything. You got so tall, Jiwon, she whispered. Last time I saw you, you were just a little thing. So small and scared. And now look at you. His breath caught. You do remember. Some things, she said, touching his cheek again. Some things the sickness can't take. Like your eyes. You had such sad eyes, baby. Like you'd already seen too much of the world's ugly side. I had, he said quietly. Until I met you. Ruth smiled. You were a good boy. Are you still a good boy, Jiwon? The question was so simple. So innocent. And it hit him like a punch to the gut. Maya watched her boss, this man who'd built an empire on fear and violence, struggle to answer. I try to be, Grandma, he finally said. For you, I try. Ruth patted his cheek. That's all the Lord asks of any of us, baby. That we try. Then the fog came back, settling over her eyes like a curtain closing. She yawned. I am feeling a bit tired, she said. It's been such a long day. Jiwon looked at Maya. Show her to the master suite. The master, Mr. Kang, that's your room. Not anymore. It's hers now. I'll take one of the guest rooms. Sir, I can't let you. He turned to face her fully, and Maya saw it again. That flash of the devil underneath. The reminder that kindness didn't mean weakness. Maya, I'm going to say this once, and I need you to hear me clearly. Ruth Johnson is the only reason I'm alive today. The only reason I'm standing here instead of buried in an unmarked grave somewhere. She gave me food when I was starving. She gave me shelter when I had nowhere to go. She gave me hope when I thought the world was nothing but pain and darkness. His voice got quieter, but somehow more intense. So if she wants the master suite, she gets the master suite. If she wants the entire mansion, she gets the mansion. If she wants me to burn this whole city to the ground and build her a castle from the ashes, I'll do it. Do you understand? Maya nodded, unable to speak. Good. Now take her upstairs. Make sure she's comfortable. If she needs anything, and I mean anything, you come get me immediately. I don't care if it's 4 a.m. and she wants ice cream. You wake me up. Yes, sir. Maya helped her grandmother toward the grand staircase. Ruth moved slowly, her hand gripping the banister, her old knees protesting with every step. Halfway up, she stopped and looked back at Jiwon, who was still standing in the entrance hall, watching them. Jiwon, she called down. Yes, Grandma. You should get some rest too, baby. You look tired. And mean. You got that mean look in your eyes again. The one you used to get when the other boys were picking on you. Something passed over his face. Pain. Memory. Regret. I will, Grandma. I promise. And eat something. You're too skinny. Yes, Grandma. And pray. Don't forget to pray, baby. Even when it's hard. especially when it's hard. His voice was barely a whisper. Yes, Grandma. Maya got Ruth settled in the master suite, which was bigger than the entire apartment they used to share. The bed alone could fit 5 people. Ruth sat on the edge of it, looking small and confused in the massive space. Where are we again, baby? She asked. We're staying with a friend, Maya said gently, helping her grandmother change into clean pajamas. Someone who cares about you very much. That's nice, Ruth said vaguely. I like making friends. Once Ruth was tucked into bed, humming softly to herself, Maya went back downstairs. She found Jiwon in the kitchen, sitting at the counter with a bottle of whiskey and a glass. He'd taken off his ruined jacket and shirt. His torso was wrapped in bandages that were already seeping blood in places. He looked up when she entered. Is she settled? Yes, sir. She's asleep. He nodded and poured himself another drink. His hands were shaking slightly. Maya stood there awkwardly, not sure if she should leave or stay. After a long moment, she spoke. Mr. Kang, how did you meet my grandmother? He stared into his glass for so long that Maya thought he wouldn't answer. But then he started talking, his voice flat and distant, like he was reading a story that had happened to someone else. Los Angeles. 23 years ago. I was 9 years old. Maya pulled out a stool and sat down across from him. My uncle brought me to America. Said there were opportunities there. Better life. What he really meant was that he needed someone small to run drugs for him. Someone the police wouldn't suspect. Jiwon took a drink. When I refused, he beat me. Left me in an alley behind a laundromat to teach me a lesson. That's where your grandmother found me. Maya's hand covered her mouth. She was coming back from the grocery store. Saw me there, bleeding and crying. And you know what she did? Maya shook her head. She chased off my uncle with nothing but her purse and that wooden cane of hers. Screamed at him in English that I didn't understand, but the message was clear enough. Then she took me home. Fed me. Cleaned my wounds. Let me sleep on her couch. His voice cracked slightly. For 3 months, she was my mother. The only mother I ever knew. She taught me English. Made me do homework. Took me to church even though I didn't believe in God. And she never asked for anything in return. Never made me feel like I owed her. She just loved me. Like it was the easiest thing in the world. What happened? Maya whispered. My uncle found me. Dragged me back to Korea. Forced me into the family business for real this time. By the time I was old enough and powerful enough to go back and look for her, she was gone. The apartment was empty. The neighbors said she'd moved away years ago. No forwarding address. No trace. He looked up at Maya, and his eyes were haunted. I've spent 2 decades building an empire. I have money, power, connections everywhere. I can find anyone in the world with 1 phone call. But I couldn't find her. I thought she was dead. His voice broke completely. I thought I'd never get to tell her thank you. Maya was crying again. She used to tell me stories. About a little Korean boy she helped once. She called you her angel baby. Even after the dementia got bad, she remembered you. She'd say, I wonder if my angel baby is okay. I hope someone's taking care of him. Jiwon put his face in his hands. They sat there in silence, 2 people connected by the same woman's kindness, both trying to process the impossible coincidence that had brought them together. Finally, Jiwon looked up. I need to know she's safe, Maya. I need to know that nothing will ever hurt her again. She's safe here, Maya said. No. His voice was sharp. You don't understand. In my world, safety is an illusion. I have enemies. Lots of them. And now that they know I care about something, about someone, she becomes a target. Maya's blood ran cold. What are you saying? I'm saying that the moment word gets out that Ruth Johnson means something to me, every rival gang in Seoul will see her as leverage. They'll try to use her to get to me. And I can't. His hands clenched into fists. I can't let that happen. I won't lose her again. So what do we do? Jiwon stood up, wincing at the pain in his ribs. When he looked at Maya, his eyes had gone cold and calculating again. The devil was back. We make sure no one knows she's here. The staff who saw her tonight will keep quiet or they'll die. You and Ruth stay in the mansion. No going out. No contact with the outside world until I can secure the perimeter. For how long? However long it takes. Maya wanted to argue. Wanted to say that her grandmother needed fresh air, needed her routines, needed more than just a gilded cage. But she saw the look on Jiwon's face and knew that arguing was pointless. He'd already decided. And when Kang Jiwon decided something, it became law. Get some rest, he said, turning away. Tomorrow, I'll have doctors come check on her. Specialists. The best in the country. Whatever she needs, she'll have it. Mr. Kang. He paused. Thank you, Maya whispered. For not hurting her. For everything. He didn't turn around. Don't thank me yet. This kindness will cost us all something. It always does. Then he walked away, leaving Maya alone in the kitchen with a growing sense of dread. Because she knew he was right. In a world built on violence and fear, kindness was the most dangerous thing you could show. And somewhere out there, in the darkness of Seoul's underworld, someone was already watching. Already planning. Already preparing to take away the one thing that made the devil human. Subscribe to this channel to support our growth. The first 3 days were beautiful. Like living in a dream that Maya knew would eventually turn into a nightmare, but she let herself believe in it anyway. Jiwon had the entire mansion transformed. Specialists came and went through the service and trance at odd hours. Neurologists, physical therapists, nutritionists. Ruth's room was equipped with everything she could possibly need. A hospital bed that adjusted at the touch of a button. Soft lighting that wouldn't hurt her eyes. A music system that played her favorite gospel songs on repeat. But what shocked Maya most was watching her boss with her grandmother. Every morning at 7, Jiwon would knock softly on Ruth's door. He'd help her out of bed, even though Maya was right there. He'd walk with her to the dining room, matching his pace to her slow, shuffling steps. He'd sit with her during breakfast, cutting her food into small pieces, reminding her to take her medications, wiping her mouth when she forgot. He was gentle with her, patient in a way that seemed impossible for a man who'd built an empire on violence. On the third morning, Maya watched from the doorway as Ruth reached across the table and touched Jiwon's hand. "You're such a good boy," she said, her eyes cloudy but warm. "Your mother must be very proud of you." Jiwon's face went still. "I never knew my mother, Grandma. She died when I was born." "Oh." Ruth's expression crumpled with sadness. "That's terrible, baby. Every child should know their mother's love." "I know yours," he said quietly. "That's enough." Ruth smiled and went back to her eggs, the moment already forgotten in the fog of her disease. But Jiwon sat there for a long time after, staring at nothing, his jaw tight. Maya wanted to comfort him. Wanted to say something that would ease the pain she saw in his eyes. But she didn't know how. Didn't know if she had the right. She was just the maid, after all. Even if that maid's grandmother had somehow become the most important person in the devil's world. That afternoon, Maya found Jiwon in his office. The door was slightly open, and she could hear him on the phone, his voice low and deadly. "I don't care what excuses he has. He missed his payment, which means he thinks he can disrespect me. Send Taemin and his crew. Make it loud. Make it messy. I want everyone in Gangnam to know what happens when you try to cheat Kang Jiwon." There was a pause. No witnesses. Burn the building after. Make it look like an electrical fire. Maya's stomach turned. She started to back away, but the floorboard creaked under her foot. The conversation stopped instantly. "I'll call you back," Jiwon said and hung up. "Maya." His voice wasn't angry, just tired. "Come in." She entered slowly, her heart pounding. This was the side of him she'd tried to forget. The side that reminded her exactly who she was living with. A monster in expensive suits. "I wasn't eavesdropping," she said quickly. "I was just. It's fine." He leaned back in his chair, studying her. "You look scared." "I'm not scared." "Liar." But he said it almost fondly. "You should be scared, Maya. You should be terrified. Do you know what I did last night?" She shook her head. "I tortured a man for 3 hours. He stole from me. A small amount, barely worth noticing, but it was the principle. In my world, weakness gets you killed. Mercy gets you killed. So I made an example of him." He stood up and walked around the desk, stopping a few feet away from her. "And then I came home, washed the blood off my hands, and read bedtime stories to your grandmother. Do you understand how insane that is?" Maya's voice came out as a whisper. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I need you to understand something." His eyes were intense, searching her face. "I'm not a good man, Maya. I never will be. Ruth sees me as that 9-year-old boy she saved, but that boy died a long time ago. What's left is someone who hurts people for a living. Someone who's committed sins that God himself couldn't forgive." "Then why?" "Because she doesn't see that version of me," he said, his voice breaking slightly. "When she looks at me, she sees someone worth saving. And I can't," he stopped, struggling with the words. "I can't lose that. Even if it's a lie. Even if I don't deserve it. I need her to keep seeing me that way." Maya understood then. Really understood. Jiwon wasn't protecting Ruth just because he owed her. He was protecting the only version of himself that was still human. Before Maya could respond, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her blood went cold. It was a text from an unknown number. "Beautiful grandmother you have. Would be a shame if something happened to her." Below the text was a photo. Ruth, sitting in the garden that morning, feeding the birds. The photo had been taken from outside the mansion walls. From a distance. With a very expensive camera. Someone had been watching. Maya's hands started shaking so badly she dropped the phone. Jiwon picked it up, looked at the screen, and his entire face changed. The gentle man who'd cut Ruth's breakfast disappeared. What remained was the devil. How long ago was this taken? His voice was ice. "This morning. Around 9. I took her outside for just 20 minutes. I thought she'd like the fresh air. Get her inside. Now. Lock her in her room. Don't let her near any windows. Mr. Kang. Now." Maya ran. She found Ruth in the library, looking at picture books. Ruth loved pictures now, since reading had become too difficult. "Nana, we need to go back to your room." "But I just got comfortable, baby. Please, Nana. It's important." Something in Maya's voice must have gotten through, because Ruth let herself be led upstairs without argument. Maya locked the door from the inside, her heart hammering against her ribs. Through the window, she could see Jiwon in the garden below, his phone pressed to his ear. Even from this distance, she could see the rage radiating off him like heat. Ruth sat on the bed, confused and a little scared. "Maya? What's happening? Why do you look so frightened?" "Everything's fine, Nana. We're just being extra careful." "Careful of what?" Maya couldn't answer. How do you explain to someone with dementia that they're in danger? That there are people out there who would hurt a sick old woman just to make a point? Downstairs, she heard shouting. The sound of things breaking. Jiwon's voice roaring orders. Ruth's hands started to shake. "I don't like this," she whispered. "I want to go home." "You are home, Nana." "No, this isn't home. Home is." Her face crumpled with confusion and fear. "Where is home, baby?" "I can't remember where home is." Maya pulled her grandmother into her arms, feeling her fragile body trembling. "Home is wherever we're together. Remember? You used to tell me that." "Did I?" "Yes, Nana. You did." They sat like that for an hour, Ruth gradually calming down, the confusion fading back into the familiar fog. Eventually, she fell asleep, her head on Maya's shoulder. Maya didn't move, didn't dare wake her. When the sun started to set, there was a soft knock on the door. "Maya, it's me." She carefully laid Ruth down on the bed and opened the door. Jiwon stood there, and he looked different. Harder, like he'd put on armor. "We need to talk." Downstairs. In the kitchen, for men Maya had never seen before were waiting. They looked like soldiers. Dangerous. Professional. Jiwon gestured to them. "This is your new security detail. 2 will be stationed outside Ruth's room at all times. The other 2 will patrol the grounds. They're the best I have." "Who sent that message?" Maya asked. "Park Min-jun. He runs the Busan Syndicate. We've been competitors for years." "How did he find out about Nana?" Jiwon's jaw clenched. "Someone talked. Someone in my organization saw her and sold that information." "The bodyguards from the first night? Already dead. Every single one of them." He said it casually, like he was discussing the weather. "But the damage is done. Min-jun knows I care about her. Which means he'll try to use her." Maya felt sick. "This is my fault. I brought her here. I put her in danger." "No." Jiwon's voice was sharp. "This is my fault. My life. My enemies. Don't you dare blame yourself." One of the security guards stepped forward. "Boss, we've swept the perimeter. Found 3 surveillance cameras hidden in the trees. Professional grade. They've been watching for at least 2 days." Jiwon's fist slammed into the counter so hard that the marble cracked. "I want every inch of this property secured. Cameras. Motion sensors. Armed patrols every hour. Nothing gets in. Nothing gets out. And I want to know exactly how many people Min-jun has in Seoul. I want names. Addresses. Families." "Yes, boss." The guards left to carry out their orders. Jiwon turned to Maya, and his expression softened slightly. "I'm sorry. You and Ruth got caught in something you never asked for. What are you going to do?" "What I always do. I'm going to eliminate the threat." "You mean kill him?" "Yes." Maya should have been horrified. Should have run. should have grabbed her grandmother and escaped this world of violence and death. But where would they go? The nursing home was still flooded. Her apartment was condemned. And now there were people out there who knew Ruth's face, who saw her as a target. They were trapped. How long until it's safe? She asked quietly. Jiwon looked at her with something like pity. Maya, it will never be safe. Not as long as I'm alive. Not as long as people know that Ruth matters to me. Then why keep us here? Why not send us away? Hide us somewhere he can't find us. Because the second you leave this house, you're vulnerable. Here, I can protect you. Out there? He shook his head. Out there, you're dead within a week. The next morning, Ruth woke up in a good mood. She didn't remember the fear from yesterday. Didn't remember the locked door or Maya's tears. The dementia, for once, was a blessing. She wanted to go to the garden. I like feeding the birds, she told Jiwon at breakfast. Those little brown ones with the red bellies. They're so sweet. Not today, Grandma, Jiwon said gently. Maybe tomorrow. But the weather's so nice. Tomorrow, I promise. Ruth's face fell, and Jiwon looked like someone had stabbed him. How about we watch a movie instead? Maya suggested quickly. We can make popcorn. Your favorite, the kind with extra butter. Ruth brightened. Oh, I do love popcorn. Crisis averted. But as the day wore on, Ruth got restless. She wandered the halls, opening doors, looking for something she couldn't name. The security guards followed at a distance, silent shadows. I feel like a prisoner, Ruth said to Maya that afternoon. Are we prisoners, baby? No, Nana. We're guests. Guests can leave, though. Can we leave? Maya's throat tightened. Not right now. Why not? Because it's safer here. Ruth looked at her with those cloudy eyes, and for just a moment they cleared. Really cleared. Someone's trying to hurt us, aren't they? Maya didn't know what to say. It's okay, baby. You don't have to lie to protect me. I may be old and forgetful, but I'm not stupid. Ruth sat down heavily on the sofa. Is it because of Jiwon? Because of what he does? Nana, you remember what he does. Some days I remember more than others. Today's a clear day. She sighed. That boy has such a good heart buried under all that anger. But the life he chose, it only brings pain. He didn't really choose it, Nana. He was forced. We always have choices, baby. Always. Jiwon chose to survive by becoming the monster instead of letting the monsters win. I understand why he did it. But that doesn't make it right. Ruth took Maya's hand. You be careful, Maya. Don't let yourself fall for him. What? Nana, I'm not. I see the way you look at him. And I see the way he looks at you when he thinks no one's watching. But that boy is broken, baby. And broken people break everyone around them, even when they don't mean to. Before Maya could respond, Ruth's eyes clouded over again. The clarity was gone. Is it time for lunch yet? Ruth asked, the deep conversation already forgotten. I'm feeling a bit hungry. Maya helped her to the dining room, her mind spinning. Did she look at Jiwon differently? Did he look at her? She'd been so focused on survival, on keeping her grandmother safe, that she hadn't stopped to examine her own feelings. But now that Ruth had planted the seed, Maya couldn't stop thinking about it. The way Jiwon's voice softened when he talked to her. The way he'd started asking about her day, not just Ruth's. The way he'd had her move to a room in the main house instead of the servants' quarters. The way he'd looked at her yesterday when she'd almost cried, like he wanted to fix whatever was hurting her. No, Ruth was wrong. Jiwon didn't see her that way. He was just being kind because she was Ruth's granddaughter. That was all. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the photo. About Park Min-joon and his threats. About the future that seemed to be closing in around them. Around midnight, she gave up and went downstairs for water. The kitchen lights were on. Jiwon sat at the counter in sweatpants and a t-shirt, drinking whiskey straight from the bottle. His knuckles were bruised and bleeding again. He'd been out, doing the things he did in the dark. Can't sleep? He asked without looking at her. No, me neither. Maya poured herself water and sat down across from him. They sat in silence for a long time. Did you take care of it? She asked finally. Some of it. Min-joon's warehouse is burning as we speak. 6 of his men won't see tomorrow. But he's still out there. Still planning. When will it end? It won't. Not until one of us is dead. More silence. Then Jiwon spoke, his voice rough. I should send you away. Both of you. It's the right thing to do. But you won't. No, I won't. He finally looked at her, and his eyes were haunted. I'm selfish, Maya. I've always been selfish. And having her here, having someone who looks at me like I'm still worth something, I can't give that up. Even if it puts her in danger. Even if it makes me the worst kind of person. You're not. Don't. His voice was sharp. Don't tell me I'm not a bad person. You've seen what I do. You've heard the orders I give. You know exactly what I am. I know you love my grandmother. I know you're trying to keep her safe. That counts for something. Does it? Does it count for anything when I'm the reason she's in danger in the first place? Maya didn't have an answer for that. Jiwon took another drink. You should hate me. You should take Ruth and run as far away from me as possible. Where would we go? Anywhere. I'd give you money. New identities. A fresh start somewhere I can't touch you. Is that what you want? The question hung in the air between them. Jiwon looked at her, really looked at her, and Maya saw something in his expression that made her breath catch. No, he said quietly. That's the last thing I want. Maya's heart started pounding. Then we stay. You don't know what you're saying. You don't know what staying means. The violence won't stop. The danger won't disappear. And eventually, Minjun or someone like him will get through my defenses. They always do. Then we'll deal with it when it happens. Maya, my grandmother is happy here, Mr. Kang. For the first time in 3 years, I've seen her smile every single day. She feels safe with you. And Maya stopped, surprised by what she was about to say. You what? I feel safe too. It was the truth. Despite everything, the violence, the danger, the knowledge of what he was, Maya felt safer in this mansion with a killer than she'd ever felt in her entire life. Maybe that made her broken too. Jiwon stared at her like he was seeing her for the first time. Then the alarm went off. A blaring sound that shattered the quiet. Red lights flashing throughout the house. Jiwon was on his feet instantly, his phone already in his hand. Talk to me. Maya could hear the guard's panicked voice through the speaker. Breach in the south perimeter. Multiple hostiles. They're coming in fast, boss. At least 15. No, 20 men. They've got. The line went dead. And then, from somewhere in the house, Maya heard Ruth scream. Subscribe to this channel to support our growth. Ruth's scream cut through the night like a knife through silk. Maya's entire body went cold. That wasn't the confused cry of someone lost in dementia. That was pure terror. Grandma! She ran toward the stairs, but Jiwon caught her arm, yanking her back so hard she almost fell. Wait, he hissed. Let me go. She needs me. And you'll be dead before you reach the second floor. His grip was iron. His eyes were already scanning, calculating, planning. Listen to me very carefully, Maya. You're going to do exactly what I say, or we all die tonight. Understood? Maya nodded, her whole body shaking. Another scream. This time it was cut short, muffled. Jiwon's jaw clenched so tight she heard his teeth grind. He pulled out his phone with his free hand, but the screen was dead. They'd cut the communications. Professional. Organized. This wasn't just a raid. This was an execution. The panic room, Jiwon said, dragging Maya toward his office. There's a secondary entrance through here. Once you're inside, there's a phone line they can't cut. Call this number. He grabbed her hand and wrote digits on her palm with a pen from his pocket, the ink bleeding into her skin. Tell them code black. They'll send everyone. What about you? I'm getting Ruth. You can't go alone. I'm not asking for permission. He shoved her toward the hidden panel in the wall, but before he could open it, the office door exploded inward. 3 men in black tactical gear poured through, weapons raised. Jiwon moved before Maya could even scream. He grabbed the heavy desk lamp and hurled it at the first man's head. It connected with a sickening crack. The man dropped. The second man fired. The bullet missed Jiwon by inches, punching through the wall behind him. Jiwon closed the distance impossibly fast, his hand catching the gun and twisting it upward. Another shot fired into the ceiling. Plaster rained down. Jiwon broke the man's wrist with a savage twist. The gun clattered to the floor. Then Jiwon's elbow connected with the man's throat. He went down choking. The third man had a clear shot at Jiwon's back. Maya didn't think. She grabbed the heavy crystal decanter from the bar cart and swung it with everything she had. It shattered against the man's head in an explosion of glass and expensive whiskey. He staggered, blood pouring from his scalp, his gun wavering. Jiwon spun and finished him with a brutal strike to the temple. 3 men down in less than 15 seconds. Jiwon grabbed Maya's shoulders, his hands shaking with adrenaline. You just saved my life. We're even then. Her voice didn't sound like her own. Now let's go get my grandmother. They ran into the hallway together. The mansion had become a war zone. Maya could hear gunfire from multiple directions. Shouting, breaking glass. The security guards Jiwon had hired were fighting back, but they were outnumbered. They reached the stairs and Jiwon stopped her again, peering around the corner. For more men on the landing, 2 dragging Ruth between them. She was fighting them with everything she had, kicking, clawing, biting like a wild animal. One of the men had scratch marks bleeding down his face. "Let me go!" Ruth screamed. "Let me go!" "Shut up, old woman." One of them snarled in Korean, shaking her hard. Something in Jiwon's face died. What replaced it was worse than anger. Worse than rage. It was absolutely nothing. "Stay here," he said to Maya. His voice was empty. "Hollow. Jiwon." But he was already moving. He walked up those stairs like he was taking a casual stroll. Like 4 armed men weren't pointing weapons at him. Like death itself was waiting at the top. The first man saw him and raised his gun. Jiwon was faster. He caught the man's wrist and twisted it backward until Maya heard bones snap like dry twigs. The gun fell. Jiwon caught it midair and fired twice. 2 men dropped, neat holes in their foreheads. The 4th man pressed his gun against Ruth's temple. "Stop or I blow her brains out." Jiwon froze. Everything froze. Ruth's eyes found Jiwon's, and despite her fear, despite the confusion that usually clouded her mind, she was completely clear in that moment. "Don't you dare give up because of me, Jiwon, she said firmly. "You hear me, boy? Don't you dare." The man's finger tightened on the trigger. And Ruth Johnson, 79 years old, sick with dementia, weak and fragile. She threw her head backward as hard as she could. Her skull connected with the man's nose with a crunch that echoed through the hallway. He screamed, his grip loosening for just a fraction of a second. It was enough. Jiwon's bullet took him between the eyes before he hit the ground. Ruth collapsed, and Jiwon caught her before she could fall. He cradled her against his chest, his whole body shaking. Grandma, are you hurt? Talk to me." "My head hurts," Ruth mumbled. "Did I do good?" "You did perfect." Jiwon's voice broke. "You did so perfect, Grandma." Maya ran up the stairs and threw her arms around both of them. "Nana, oh my God, Nana." More footsteps. Heavy boots on marble. Coming from everywhere. "They're surrounding us," Jiwon said. He looked at Maya, and she saw the calculation in his eyes. He was counting bullets. Counting enemies. Counting the odds. They weren't good. "The panic room," Maya said. "We can still. It's on the 1st floor. We'll never make it." "Then what do we do?" Jiwon looked at Ruth, then at Maya, then back down the hallway where at least a dozen armed men were closing in. He made a decision. "We fight." He handed Maya one of the guns from the dead men. "You know how to use this?" "I've never." "Safety's off. Point and shoot. Don't think, just pull the trigger." He positioned them behind a marble column. "Stay behind me. Protect Ruth. If I go down." "You're not going down." "If I go down," he repeated firmly, "you take her and run. Don't look back. Don't try to help me. Just run." "Jiwon." He kissed her. It was fast, desperate, tasting like blood and whiskey and goodbye. "In case we don't make it," he whispered against her lips. Then the first wave hit. Maya lost count of how many there were. 5, 6, maybe more. Jiwon moved like water, like violence given human form. Every movement was precise. Deadly. Beautiful in the most terrible way. But there were too many. A bullet grazed his shoulder. Another hit his thigh. He staggered but didn't fall, didn't stop, couldn't stop because stopping meant Ruth died. Maya fired the gun. She didn't know if she hit anyone. Didn't know if the screaming she heard was hers, or theirs, or Ruth's. The world had become noise and smoke and the metallic smell of blood. Ruth was curled against the column, her hands over her ears, humming that gospel song. The one about grace and mercy and how we'll understand it better by and by. A man appeared behind them. Maya turned too slow. Watched his gun raise. Watched his fingers squeeze. She couldn't move fast enough. Couldn't save Ruth. Couldn't do anything but watch. The shot rang out. But it wasn't his gun that fired. The man's chest exploded outward. He dropped like a puppet with cut strings. Standing behind him was Park Min-jun himself. He was older than Maya expected. Maybe 50, with silver hair and expensive glasses. He looked like someone's grandfather. Like he should be playing chess in the park, not orchestrating home invasions. "Enough," he said quietly. And just like that, the shooting stopped. His men lowered their weapons, stepping back. The silence was somehow worse than the gunfire. Jiwon stood in the middle of the hallway, bleeding from multiple wounds, surrounded by bodies. His gun was empty. He dropped it with a clatter. "Minjun," he said flatly. "Jiwon." Minjun stepped over a corpse like it was a piece of furniture. "You've made quite a mess of my men. You attacked my home. You burned my warehouse. Killed 6 of my best. Did you think there wouldn't be consequences? I was counting on it." Minjun smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "Always so arrogant. Even when you're bleeding out." He looked past Jiwon to where Maya was shielding Ruth. "Is this her? The old woman you care about so much? Leave her out of this." "Oh, but she's the entire point, isn't she?" The great Kang Jiwon, who's never cared about anyone, suddenly has a weakness. It's almost poetic. Minjun pulled out his own gun. Aimed it at Ruth. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to kneel, Jiwon. You're going to put your hands behind your head. And you're going to beg me to spare her life. Go to hell." Wrong answer. He fired. The bullet hit the column inches from Ruth's head. She screamed. Maya covered her with her own body, her heart hammering so hard she thought it would explode. "Kneel," Minjun repeated. "Or the next one goes through her skull." Jiwon's hands clenched into fists. Blood dripped from his wounds, pooling on the marble. Maya could see him calculating, searching for an opening, some way to turn this around. There wasn't one. "Don't," Maya said quietly. "Don't do it, Jiwon. I have to." "No. He'll kill you anyway. And then he'll kill us. Don't give him the satisfaction." "I can't watch her die, Maya." "I won't." He looked at her with eyes full of agony. "I already lost her once. I can't do it again." Slowly, like every movement cost him his soul, Kang Jiwon dropped to his knees. He put his hands behind his head. And the devil of Seoul bowed his head to his enemy. Minjun's smile widened. "There we go. Not so proud now, are we?" "Please," Jiwon said, and the word sounded like it was being torn from his throat. "Please don't hurt her. She's just an old woman. She's sick. She doesn't understand what's happening. Please. Keep going. I'm begging you. Take everything. My territory, my money, my life. Just let her live." Touching. Minjun walked closer, pressing the gun against Jiwon's forehead. "You know, I almost believe you actually care about her. The Kang Jiwon I know doesn't care about anyone. Doesn't feel anything except rage and greed. Then you don't know me at all. Maybe not. But I know enough to know that killing you quickly would be too kind." He looked at his men. "Take the old woman." "No." Jiwon surged to his feet, but 3 men grabbed him, forced him back down. He fought like a wild animal, but the wounds had weakened him too much. 2 more men grabbed Ruth, pulling her away from Maya. "Let her go." Maya screamed, trying to hold on, but someone hit her across the face and she fell. Ruth was crying now, confused and terrified. "Jiwon? Jiwon, baby, what's happening? I don't understand." "I'm sorry, Grandma," Jiwon choked out, still fighting against the men holding him. Blood ran down his face. "I'm so sorry. I should have protected you better. I should have." "It's okay, baby." Ruth's voice suddenly went calm. Clear. Like the fog had lifted one last time. "You did your best. You were always such a good boy, Jiwon. My angel baby. I'm so proud of you. Grandma, please. I love you, son. Don't you ever forget that." Minjun raised his gun, aiming at Ruth's heart. And then every window in the mansion exploded inward. Black shapes poured through the broken glass like shadows given form. Gunfire erupted from every direction. Minjun's men dropped before they could even raise their weapons. It was over in seconds. Jiwon's reinforcements had arrived. 30 men in tactical gear, armed to the teeth, moving with military precision. They swept through the mansion like a tidal wave, eliminating every hostile in their path. Minjun spun toward the chaos, his face going white. No, this isn't." Jiwon grabbed his leg and yanked him to the ground. They crashed down together, grappling for the gun. Minjun was older but trained. He got his thumb on Jiwon's throat, pressing into his windpipe. Jiwon's vision started to go dark. Maya saw a gun on the floor. The one Jiwon had dropped earlier. She picked it up, pointed it at Minjun, and pulled the trigger. Click. Empty. Minjun laughed, his hand still crushing Jiwon's throat. "Stupid girl." Maya swung the gun like a club. It connected with his temple. Once. Twice. 3 times until her arms burned and his blood splattered her clothes, and he finally let go of Jiwon and slumped sideways. Jiwon gasped, sucking in air, his hand going to his bruised throat. Maya dropped the gun and fell to her knees beside him. "Are you okay? Jiwon, talk to me." He pulled her against his chest, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. His whole body was shaking. "You saved me," he whispered into her hair. "Again. We save each other. That's what family does." Ruth stood a few feet away, surrounded by Jiwon's men who were checking her for injuries. She looked at the chaos around them, the bodies, the blood, the broken glass, and shook her head. "What a terrible mess," she said. "Someone's going to have to clean all this up." And despite everything, despite the death and violence and terror, Jiwon laughed. It was a broken, exhausted sound, but it was real. He was still alive. Ruth was alive. Maya was alive. That was all that mattered. The aftermath took hours. Jiwon's people cleaned the mansion with terrifying efficiency. Bodies were removed. Blood was scrubbed away. Broken furniture was replaced. By sunrise, you'd never know a war had been fought there. Minjun was alive, barely. Jiwon had him taken to a secure location for questioning. Maya didn't ask what that meant. Some things were better left unknown. A doctor came to treat Jiwon's wounds. 3 bullet wounds, 2 cracked ribs, and a concussion. He should have been in a hospital, but he refused to leave the mansion. "Not until I know she's safe," he said, gesturing to Ruth. Ruth was fine physically. A few bruises, nothing serious. Mentally, though, the attack had shaken something loose. She'd retreated deep into the fog of her disease, barely responding to anything. Maya sat with her all day, holding her hand, singing the gospel songs Ruth loved. "Amazing grace, how sweet the sound," Maya sang softly. "That saved a wretch like me." Ruth's eyes focused slightly. "I once was lost, but now I'm found," she whispered, joining in. They sang together, grandmother and granddaughter, their voices cracked and tired but still whole. That evening, Jiwon knocked on Ruth's door. He'd showered and changed, but he moved stiffly, favoring his injured side. "How is she?" he asked Maya quietly. "Better. The doctor said the shock might fade in a few days. Or it might not. We just have to wait and see." Jiwon walked to the bed and knelt beside it. Ruth was staring at the ceiling, humming. "Grandma Ruth," he said gently. "It's me. It's Jiwon." She turned her head slowly, looked at him with those cloudy eyes. "Jiwon, ah," she said. "My angel baby." His voice broke. "I'm so sorry, Grandma. This is all my fault. You should never have been in danger. I should have." Ruth's hand touched his cheek. "Hush now. You did what you could. You fought for me. Protected me. That's all that matters. I almost lost you, but you didn't. I'm still here, baby." She smiled. "The Lord's not done with me yet, I guess. Still got more work to do." "What work?" "Taking care of you. Making sure you eat your vegetables. Reminding you to pray." Her eyes cleared for just a moment. "And making sure you don't push away that girl who loves you." Jiwon glanced at Maya, who was suddenly very interested in the curtains. "I don't know what you mean, Grandma." "Yes, you do. You're smart, Jiwon. Don't be stupid about this." Ruth yawned. "Now let an old woman sleep. All this excitement's worn me out." Jiwon kissed her forehead and stood up. Maya followed him out into the hallway. They stood there in awkward silence. "She's wrong, you know," Maya said finally. "About the loving you part." "I know. I mean, I care about you. Obviously. You're protecting my grandmother. And you've been kind to us. But love it's too strong a word for." "Maya." She stopped rambling. Jiwon was looking at her with an expression she couldn't read. "When that gun was pointed at you tonight, and I thought you were going to die, something inside me broke. Something I didn't even know was still whole enough to break. Jiwon, I've killed a lot of people, Maya. More than I can count. Most of them deserved it. Some of them didn't. I've done things that would make you sick if you knew the details. I'm not a good man. I'll never be a good man. Then why are you telling me this? Because I need you to understand what you're getting into if you stay here. If you stay with me." He stepped closer. "The violence won't stop. The danger won't disappear. There will always be another Minjun, another enemy trying to hurt the people I care about. I know that. And you're still staying?" Maya thought about her grandmother's words. About how broken people break everyone around them. About how loving someone like Jiwon was probably the most foolish thing she could do. But she also thought about the way he'd been willing to die for Ruth. The way he'd begged on his knees without shame. The way he'd held Maya after the fight like she was something precious. "I'm still staying," she said. Jiwon closed the distance between them and kissed her properly this time. Not desperate. Not rushed. Just soft and careful and full of all the things he didn't know how to say out loud. When they broke apart, he pressed his forehead against hers. "Ruth's right," he whispered. "I am stupid about this. Because I know I should let you go. Know I should send you somewhere safe, somewhere I can't destroy you. But I'm too selfish. Too broken. Too in love with you to do the right thing. Maya's breath caught. You love me? Probably. I don't really know what love feels like. But when I look at you, I want to be better than I am. Want to be the kind of man who deserves someone like you. And I hate that I'm not. But I'm going to try, Maya. I'm going to try so damn hard. She kissed him again, tasting salt from tears she hadn't realized were falling. Then we'll try together, she said. Because I love you too. Even though I shouldn't. Even though it's crazy. I do. From inside the room, they heard Ruth's voice, tired but amused. About damn time. Now let an old woman sleep. They laughed, still holding each other in the hallway of a mansion built on blood and secrets. And somehow, despite everything, it felt like home. 2 weeks later, Ruth was sitting in the garden. Not the one she'd been photographed in before. That had been destroyed in the attack. But Jiwon had built her a new one, inside the mansion's walls where no camera could reach, where armed guards watched from discreet positions. It was beautiful, full of flowers and birds and the sound of a small fountain. Ruth fed the birds, humming her gospel songs, mostly at peace. Maya sat beside her, reading a book. Jiwon was on a conference call nearby, but he kept glancing over at them, making sure they were okay. He did that now. Checked on them constantly, like he was afraid they'd disappear if he looked away too long. He's going to wear a hole in the ground from pacing, Ruth said, following Maya's gaze. He worries. He loves. There's a difference. Ruth smiled. You're good for him, baby. You and me. We remind him that there's more to life than anger and revenge. Do you really think he can change, Nana? No. Ruth's answer was immediate. He'll always be who he is. The life he's lived, the things he's done, you can't erase that. Can't pretend it didn't happen. Maya's heart sank. But, Ruth continued, he can choose what he does with it. Choose to protect instead of destroy. Choose love instead of hate. That's all any of us can do, baby. We can't change our past, but we can decide our future. She took Maya's hand. And I think that boy has finally decided his future includes more than just survival. He wants to live. Really live. And that's all because of you. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. I'm scared, Nana. Scared something will happen to you. Scared something will happen to him. Scared this happiness won't last. Then be scared. But be happy too. Take the joy when it comes, baby, because Lord knows this world gives us enough sorrow. Ruth squeezed her hand. And remember, you're stronger than you think. When those men came, you didn't freeze. You fought. You saved lives. That's who you are, Maya. That's the woman your mama raised you to be. Mama would be horrified I'm dating a criminal. Your mama fell in love with a man who wasn't perfect either. My son had his demons, God rest his soul. But he loved your mama with everything he had. And she loved him back, demons and all. Ruth smiled. Love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone whose imperfections you can live with, whose brokenness matches your own. Jiwon finished his call and walked over, sitting down on Ruth's other side. What are we talking about? Love, Ruth said simply. Ah. He looked uncomfortable. Don't be shy about it, Jiwon. Love is the only thing in this world worth fighting for. Worth dying for. You remember that. Yes, Grandma. She patted both their hands. Good. Now someone get me more birdseed. These little guys are still hungry. Maya went inside to get it, leaving Jiwon alone with Ruth. She's going to break your heart, you know, Ruth said after a moment. Jiwon looked at her, startled. What? Not on purpose. Not because she wants to. But because I'm dying, Jiwon. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. And when I go, you're going to hurt in ways you didn't know were possible. His throat tightened. Don't talk like that. Someone has to. Someone has to prepare you for what's coming. She turned to face him, her cloudy eyes somehow seeing right through him. And I need you to promise me something. Anything. When I'm gone, you take care of my granddaughter. You protect her, love her, treat her like the precious gift she is. And you don't let my death turn you back into the monster you were before. You stay human, Jiwon. You stay good. Promise me. I promise, Grandma. I swear to God, I promise. Good boy. She smiled. You know, when I found you in that alley all those years ago, I thought I was saving you. But maybe you were sent to save me too. Save me from being forgotten. From dying alone in some hospital bed with strangers watching. You gave me this. She gestured at the garden, at the mansion, at the life she'd been given. You gave me a beautiful ending. And I'm grateful. You're not ending, Grandma. You're going to live forever. She laughed softly. We both know that's not true. But it's sweet that you pretend. Maya came back with the birdseed, and they spent the rest of the afternoon in the garden. 3 broken people who'd somehow found each other across time and tragedy and impossible odds. And for this moment, they were happy. That was enough. That was everything. The devil learned to love because an old woman saw the angel inside him. Maya learned that strength isn't about never being afraid. It's about fighting anyway. And Ruth learned that even at the end, kindness echoes forward in ways we'll never fully understand. This is the power of love that crosses all boundaries. Sometimes the most dangerous man in the world just needs someone to remind him he's still human. Sometimes salvation comes from the most unexpected places. And sometimes family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when the world is burning down. If this story touched your heart, if you felt every moment of fear and hope and love, let us know in the comments. Tell us what this story meant to you. And subscribe to this channel to support our growth, because stories like this, stories about broken people finding wholeness in each other, are what we're all about. Until next time, remember, everyone deserves to be seen. Everyone deserves to be loved. Even the devils among us.